Now it is time to move on to the next step. We are going to get some paper out. I am working on an 8x8. It's a little bit smaller, but it's easier to see in the frame. So just bear with me. This is still going to be the same exact way that you're doing it. My paper is just a little bit smaller. We are going to start by sketching and mapping out our design onto our background paper. So my background color is blue, which is the color that I got for my personality quiz. Check it out. I copied my design. I made a pattern in the squares that would be orange, or in this case, I guess they'd be triangles, but in the shapes that would be orange, and it matches my original design. Next, let's talk about how we can fill in these shapes. So we had talked already about the type of materials that we're using. So we are primarily going to be using cut paper and collage for this project. But I would like for you to pick one other element that you can include in your design. Things that I would allow or suggest, but again, we can have a conversation if you have something else in mind. Colored pencils, other pattern paper, markers, paint, fabric, and again, if you have something else in mind, we can chat. So now comes the fun part. We are going to have to do a little bit of math when we are finding out how our shapes are going to fit together. So if we remember from before, we have a 3" by 3" square. This is a really good guide. I'm going to be cutting out of my orange paper, but if you want to start by cutting out of your patterned orange paper instead, that is fine as well. So if you're someone that math comes easy to you and you can start by drawing out those shapes and cutting them out, that would be your first way to go. But I like to really double check and make sure that I've got those shapes right. So I'm going to draw one more time what I already drew on my blue onto my orange. Let me show you a trick that can help go a little bit faster. So I'm just going to work one quadrant at a time. So a quadrant is 1 of 4. So because we have a square, and for my pattern, it repeats the same design in each quadrant, I know that if I cut out one square, it will be the same size in each of these. If your design is more intricate and that doesn't work, we can chat about our next solution. So here we go. I got 4 identical squares using just that one quadrant. Mine went a little bit over the edge, so I tried to line them up the best with where they would hit those points, and I'll go back and trim them later. I know that I have 4 triangles that are the same as well, so I'm going to try and figure out how I can make one and make them all the same. So this is 6 inches along here, and this is 6 inches too. So maybe thinking about making a rectangle, and then we could even use those 2 orange shapes to put in here. Let's give that a try. Okay, so I've got my 2 rectangles. Now, how could I figure this out? Our middle point of the triangle, what if we fold it? And then we cut from the middle and bingo, we've got a triangle. And then that would go down there. Awesome. Okay, so here is what I've got so far. I found out that I could even use 2 smaller triangles to make those bigger triangles. Again, this is about patience and figuring out how your shapes can fit together. So see what you can do. If you are someone who's at home and find that you run out of paper, I wouldn't worry. We can get you some paper when you get back to class the next week, but try your best to use what you've got to do what you can. All right, here's my final result. We're going to talk about one more thing before we move on to the next video, which is talking about pattern and how to add that second medium. So if you can see here, I tried my best to line up my shapes, but there are a couple spots where they either don't meet or there are some gaps. So that comes into play with craftsmanship. We want to make sure that we're measuring and taking our time when we're doing this project because remember, we don't have unlimited paper. So being able to measure twice, cut once is really a skill that we're going to want to learn. So I wanted to show you how that might work, and how we can fix that is measuring, measuring, measuring. All right, thanks everyone.